Hi, this is Tony, and today I'm speaking to Steve Smith, who is one half of Stage Parades. Now, Steve, thanks very much for giving up your time to speak to me today. What's Stage Parades all about?
It's a pleasure, Tony. Stage Parades actually came about in about 1995. We used to have a band called Theatre X, which ran from 1974. That gives our age away, doesn't it? And after our band broke up, we no longer had any vocalists, so we thought, well, let's try and do some instrumentals, which we did from 1997 right through to 2007. The internet, of course, became our saviour, really, because the internet allowed our music to be played and get through to everybody, basically. So in 2007, we joined MySpace. I don't know if any of your listeners remember MySpace. And it generated quite a lot of interest in our music, with our influences being the Pet Shop Boys, Elton John, things like that. And we actually produced our first album in 2008, which was just basically to sell to people on MySpace. And from there, we've done another 5 albums since. And what we really got into, basically, is working with photographers to try and showcase their artwork, coupled with our music. And so we've gained a lot of people from all different countries who actually send us pictures to put their pictures to our music. And, of course, we upload onto YouTube.
And folks, I've had a look at some of these pictures, and they're absolutely fantastic. And the way that the music goes along with the photography is fantastic. How do you go about that?
Well, to be fair, the music usually does come first, but because I advertise in advance what sort of pictures I'm looking for, it's not easy, but it's quite. You just get all the pictures together. When you get a track, whether it be fast, because we go from trance music at one scale right down to easy listening at the other. So you have to choose your pictures to obviously suit the music. So thanks for saying that, because obviously I'm doing a reasonable job in getting the pictures to marry up with the actual music. And from there, I then create a title for the music. Sometimes it's, it can be actually about the place. For example, Fylde Coast is actually pictures on the Fylde Coast. Yes. Exmoor Park is pictures at Exmoor Park. So it's all kind of, it's a bit hit and miss, but it seems to be working. And we like to help other people show their creative skills and marry them up with ours. I
see. I was going to ask you about the titles to instrumental music, because obviously if somebody writes a song with lyrics, yep, it's not too difficult to work out the title. Mm-hmm. But with instrumentals, it's so much different, isn't it? I always go back to, say, Fleetwood Mac's Albatross. I wonder how that name ever came about.
True, very true. It's a difficult question to answer, because you just have to go with your feelings when you actually hear the music for the first time. I remember a track we did in 1997 called Not Yet Over You. Now, that did actually have lyrics, but because we didn't have a vocalist, we still called it Not Yet Over You, because the track, basically, that's what it was about. It was about a feeling of loss when you've lost somebody and you haven't really got, you haven't managed to get over it.
Right. How would you say over the years, because you, as you say, you've been at it a little while,
very old.
How would you say that your music has changed over the years?
Well, I'd like to think it's got better, to be honest, and that's partly because of the software. The one thing that when we were working, we had loads of equipment, a music room, which, to be fair, you don't actually need so much now, because as long as you've got keyboards, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners will identify with this,
yes,
is that if you've got a keyboard and computer and lots of software, that you can use to actually create music, as much as all the great big stuff that we've got in the music room, that we actually tend not to use now, because it's cumbersome and it takes a lot of effort, whereas computer software makes actually music easier. And it actually, because you've got access to more sounds, it actually can enhance your sound.
I see. And am I right in thinking Peter writes most of the music?
Yes, Peter, I used to write all the lyrics, so in a sense my job is now defunct, although that's why I got into all the videos so that I could still be part of it. But Peter, who isn't very well at the moment, by the way, otherwise he would join us, he creates all the music, he seems to be inspired by... I don't know where he gets his inspiration really from, because it's so diverse when you listen to our stuff. I mean, we've done 140 tracks, but it does vary quite a lot.
Does he set out to write a song, or does he get up on a Tuesday and say, "I'm going to write a song," or does it just come to him?
It's the latter. He just mucks about, I think, with sounds, and then suddenly he'll get an inspired melody, and then from there he'll then expand on that.
Right. Now, this year you've got a new project, a new album, called Final Curtain. Now, do we read anything into that?
Well, when we actually made the title, no, but it was just there's a couple of tracks on the album that would lead you to that, the final curtain. But as it's turned out, this has been such a bad year health-wise for both of us that, in fact, but it seems a bit ironic, the title, to be honest with you. But no, we are planning another. If we do have another album, it will certainly be called Encore. If we do have another album, but no, the final curtain was just something that I don't know how it came to us, but it's just something that we've called the album. But it is a bit ironic the way our health's been this year.
Well, I'm sure we're all relieved about that. And for the listeners, how can they get to know about you? You got a website?
Right, we have got a small website that, but our main place that you can find us is on YouTube. If you just type in Stage Parades on Google, it will take you to our YouTube site. We're also on Twitter. We don't use Facebook as much as we used to do, and as I said, we're also on Refurb Nation. But we tend to videos are our main source of pleasure these days, in trying to get someone just to notice us, basically, which I'm glad to say you have.
That's right. Well, thanks very much, Steve. I've really enjoyed speaking to you, and we'll definitely play some of your music for our listeners. Thank you.
Kind of you, Tony. Thanks ever so much.